Yeah, g'day, how's it going? Sorry it's been a little while between videos. I've been a bit busy, done a couple of trips, but one I forgot my camera and the other just didn't quite get the footage I wanted to make it worthwhile. So yeah, sorry about that. So I thought I'd make it up to you guys by teaching you a couple of knots. There's a few knots I use, but I won't go into all of them today. I just thought I'd give you a quick one with a couple of easy ones. And one knot that I find really versatile is the figure of 8. So you just get a piece of cord, and all you need to do, trying to do it so it's facing you, is bring it round in front of the rope, behind the rope, and back through. So what you end up with is a figure of 8. Now by itself, this knot, it's not super duper useful. The only real reason I have for it is tying it right on the very end. If I'm using a pulley, like if I've shot a deer or something and I'm hanging it up in my garage to butcher it, I'll use a block and tackle to lift it, and this, when I release the load, just stops everything running through the pulley. So it's a good stopper knot. If you've got a frayed end on your rope, you can use this to stop it fraying further until you can whip it or splice it or get out your lighter and melt the end of it, whatever it happens to be. See, this one's a bit frayed, so what I might do, just get a lighter, give it a wee bit of a go, lick my fingers so it doesn't stick, and then it's not frayed anymore. So then I can untie the knot. That's where this is a good knot. You can always untie it. But where is it useful? Well, another thing you can do with it is double the rope over before you tie the knot, and then what you end up with is a loop. Now it's a loop that no matter how tight you pull it, you can untie it. Okay, so that's a second variation of the figure 8 knot. That's called a figure 8 in the bight. The third way, and any of you who are climbers or anything like that will have seen, all you do, you tie your normal figure 8 further back from the end. So you've got a figure 8 and a wee bit of a tail, and then you can tie that around a descender if you're abseiling, or you might tie it to something else that you want to be able to untie the rope again fairly quickly at the end. And then all you do is you poke the tag end, the long end, back through and follow the path of the original rope. Now what you'll see, it's just a case of over, under, and you end up with a doubled up figure 8 with a loop on the end. And no matter how hard I pull on that, it's always going to undo. So that's a figure 8 in the bight. Okay, so that's, correction, that's a figure 8 that's been rethreaded. When else might you use this? Well, you can use this to join two ropes together. It's just another variation of another knot. So there's my figure 8. Then I just get my other line and I poke it through and follow the path of the other rope. Round, under, around and through. Then I can join those two knots, and that knot will always undo. Pull it as tight as you want, but it will always undo. So it's one of those knots that you can undo without needing a knife. You know, I've seen a lot of people using granny knots and things to join knots together, and that doesn't work too well. But there's other knots we can use to join ropes. Of course, we've got the reef knot, and the reef knot is quite simply left over right and under, right over left and under. If you've seen the scout badge, this is the knot on the scout badge, and we can pull that as tight as we want, and it will always undo. Works quite well. So that's the reef knot. I'll try and tie it backwards for you so you can see it. So this is the left, this is the right. The left goes over the right and under, and then the right goes over the left and under. The right goes over the left and under. I won't tie it backwards. You can figure it out yourself. That's good. So that's the reef knot, and originally used by sailors to reef sails. So if you imagine a sailing ship with the sails all ballooning out, in a storm they'd tie the ropes around the sail and reef them in so that the sail area was smaller, so that the ship didn't keel over in the storm. Another way we can join two ropes together, and they can be different thicknesses, is the sheet bend. So here I've got two ropes. I've got a fat rope and a skinny rope. I hope you can see the skinny one. I picked the bright colour for that very reason. And all we do is make a bight or a loop in one of the lines, and we go around the back of the loop and then back under itself. And then we've got a sheet bend, and that knot, unless it's a really stretchy rope, that knot will never undo. What you can do, if you're feeling particularly want it to be particularly secure, you can go through twice, and that's what we call a double sheet bend. Once, twice. I'll show you this once it's tied. So you can see the double sheet bend there, and again that will never pull to the point that you can't undo it. Unless the rope's a really stretchy rope, your four-wheel drive recovery ropes and stuff, these knots are no good. There's a whole other series of knots I'll get into another day for those. So there's some really basic knots. There is another knot that, just for history's sake, I thought would be quite interesting. A lot of sailors used to tie on their duffel bags. They'd tie a reef knot on their bags to secure their duffel bag shut, because it was always nice and easy to untie. However, sometimes what they do is they tie a knot called a thief knot. So if we look at the reef knot, I'll tie up the short end so you can see. If we look at the reef knot, the two ends are on the top. See these two tag ends, they're on the same size, same side. See, like so. So that's a reef knot, and it looks like a reef knot, and if you see a reef knot, you see a reef knot every day, and you tend to look at those two almost like chain links and you think that's cool. So what a couple of clever fellas did was they came up with a knot that was sort of a variation of the sheet bend and the reef knot, where they'd get a bight and they'd tie a reef knot that wasn't a reef knot. See, look at that. It's still got the links, but the tag ends are on opposite corners. They're on diagonals to each other. So you could tie that knot in your duffel bag. Again, to see it, we've got our tag end on the bottom, and then we tie it like a sheet bend where we go around, but instead we tuck it back in, and so we get that reef knot looking thing with a tag end on opposite corners. So that was the thief knot, so people could tie that and see straight away whether anyone had interfered with their kit bag. So yeah, just some simple knots there. So we did the figure eight on a bight, the figure eight rethread, the figure eight to join ropes. We've done the reef knot, the thief knot, and the sheet bend. There's one other knot that you can use to tie a loop, and again, very versatile rope, knot, very versatile knot. We start off with our tag end, and what we have is a wee story. We bring our right hand on top of the left hand. So the right hand on top of the left hand to form this little loop with the right hand on top. We pinch that with our thumb. Now the rabbit comes out of the hole and goes around the back of the long end of the rope, around the tree, and back in the hole. And what we get there is a bowline, and that's a knot that will never slip. It will never slip, and unless it's a stretchy rope like your recovery knots, ropes for four-wheel drive, unless it's like one of those snatch strap type ropes, it will always untie, and we've got it. Now again, we can make a rudimentary harness. It might be something, I don't recommend using this for people, but you could use it to lower an animal if it was injured or something like that, if you had to, where we form a loop. So we're doubling the rope over, and we just tie the same knot. See, we've got our loop here, and the rabbits come out the hole, goes around the back of the tree and back down the hole again. And pull it all nice and tight. And then we've got 2 holes, so you could put an animal through an animal's shoulders, you know, have their front legs dangling out, or a heavy load, might be a long load, some planks or something like that, and we can use that to lift it and it won't slip. It won't slip. So I have seen video footage, and I don't recommend it, where people put their legs through here and they might clip a harness, a carabiner onto here, and use that as a rudimentary harness for descending in an emergency situation. Look, yeah, in an emergency, I guess all bets are off, but don't just go trying it for fun and games, because it will, you know, there's all sorts of issues with harnesses and bits and pieces, and I'd hate for you to get hurt. So yeah, there's just some knots, something to keep you interested. I have a length of line here. It's just under 6 feet long. It's just some cheap polyester rope. The end's frayed. So I've got this one, and I normally carry a couple of pieces like this. I even often carry a piece in my pocket, and you can just sit and fidget away and practice your knots while you're in a meeting or something like that, just to keep your hands busy and get familiar with those knots, and you get to the point where you can tie them all with your eyes closed. Showing you that would be a skite, but you'll find you can do it pretty quick, and then you've got these knots that you can tie and use quickly, and the more often you tie them, the easier they become. So yeah, get out there, tie some knots. If you like this video, hit like, hit subscribe. If there's something you don't like or something you want to know a little bit more about, hit me up in the comments below. Yeah, there's a whole lot of other knots I know and use, but I just thought I'd start with a few today. But yeah, definitely ask me if you want to know anything else. I'm happy to share any information I know, and if I don't know, I'll tell you, and I'll go and find a video and link it to you so you know where to go. Anyway, thanks for watching, have a great day, keep safe, and we'll see you around. All the best.